A secret contract loophole just blew the Formula One driver and engine market wide open. The secret Ferrari clause Toyota just triggered at Haas has left Ferrari furious because Maranello suddenly realizes they are housing their biggest future rival's engineering pipeline right inside their own customer ecosystem. Forget the sanitized corporate statements claiming this is merely a harmless branding and driver training exercise. The cold political reality tells a completely different story. On paper, Haas signed an agreement keeping Ferrari power units, gearboxes, and suspension components bolted to their cars through the end of 2028. Fred Vasseur thought he had the American team locked down as Maranello's loyal customer satellite. Then Ayao Komatsu and Akio Toyoda executed a masterclass in corporate chess. Hidden deep within Haas's supply framework was a specific, protected operational rule. Haas retained full legal authority to outsource non-listed carbon composite manufacturing, simulator operations, and technical personnel integration to external engineering firms. Ferrari signed off on it, assuming Haas would keep outsourcing standard chassis tubs to Dallara in Italy. Instead, Haas opened the front doors of their Banbury facility to Toyota Gazoo Racing. Toyota didn't just put branding on the rear wing, they installed proprietary hardware, deployed factory engineers into the race garage, and took over the testing of previous cars program. Here is why Maranello is panicking behind closed doors. To integrate Ferrari's hybrid power units into the Haas chassis, engineers must share exact CAD packaging dimensions, cooling parameters, and thermal telemetry. That means Japanese engineers backed by the world's largest automotive empire are legally sitting in technical briefings, studying how Ferrari packages its engine architecture in real time. Toyota is using Ferrari's own customer engine deal as a zero-risk, multi-million-dollar training runway. They are learning the operational, aerodynamic, and electronic blueprints of modern Formula One without spending a single dollar developing a power unit from scratch. By the time the Ferrari customer contract expires at the end of 2028, Toyota won't need Maranello anymore. They will have a fully operational F1 technical infrastructure in Banbury and Cologne, ready to sever ties and flip the switch on a full Toyota Works assault. Fred Vasseur is locked in a contract he cannot easily break without massive legal penalties, while watching his customer team transform into a factory rival. Today, we are exposing the leaked contractual clauses, the intellectual property border war inside Banbury, and the brilliant long game Akio Toyoda is playing to conquer the grid. If you want the unedited paddock facts and engineering truths the mainstream media refuses to touch, hit that subscribe button right now because this corporate war is about to explode. The boardrooms in Maranello erupted the second the ink dried on the Banbury paperwork. For 10 straight seasons, Scuderia Ferrari treated Haas as an obedient customer satellite. Gene Haas bought Ferrari internal combustion engines, kinetic hybrid motor generators, hydraulic systems, rear suspensions, and carbon-cased gearboxes. Whenever Haas needed aerodynamic validation, they booked slots in Ferrari's wind tunnel in Maranello. Whenever Haas drivers needed simulator laps, they flew to Italy to use Ferrari's software rigs. Haas was completely dependent on Italian hardware to survive. Fred Vasseur believed that dynamic was locked down through the end of 2028. Ferrari agreed to supply their brand new 50-50 electrical split power units for the technical regulations, feeling certain that Haas had nowhere else to run. Then Ayao Komatsu pulled off the ultimate contractual heist. Komatsu understood the fine print of the FIA Concord Agreement better than almost anyone in the paddock. Under Formula One regulations, an independent team cannot buy aerodynamic surfaces, side pod bodywork, or front and rear wing designs from another competitor. Those are classified as listed team components. A constructor must design and own the intellectual property of those parts themselves. However, non-listed components, composite manufacturing, software simulation tools, and physical testing infrastructure can be legally outsourced to any commercial engineering firm on Earth. When Ferrari drafted the 2028 engine extension, they included standard language allowing Haas to contract third-party manufacturers for chassis tub layups and composite carbon fiber curing. For years, Haas used Dallara in Italy. Ferrari never batted an eye at Dallara because an Italian chassis shop presented zero threat to Ferrari's commercial empire. Toyota Gazoo Racing saw that clause and realized it was an open back door into Formula One. Instead of spending $1 billion building an F1 operation from scratch, buying an existing team license, or paying a multi-$100 million anti-dilution fee to the FIA, Toyota simply replaced Dallara. They signed a technical alliance with Haas, officially taking over composite carbon manufacturing, structural aerodynamics engineering, and simulation hardware. The moment Toyota engineers walked through the doors at Banbury, Ferrari's technical department hit the panic button. Here is the first hidden twist that mainstream coverage completely missed. A modern power unit is not just a metal box bolted into the back of a chassis. It is a highly stressed structural member that dictates every millimeter of the car's aerodynamic packaging. To build a competitive carbon fiber chassis around Ferrari's engine, Haas must receive complete three-dimensional CAD models from Maranello. They need exact measurements of the turbocharger layout, the high-voltage battery casing, the MGU-K motor positioning, the exhaust manifold clearances, the intercooler ducting, and the hydraulic fluid routing. Every single cooling pipe, electrical wiring harness, and radiator mounting bracket must be integrated with mathematical precision. Under the new partnership, who designs the carbon composite bodywork, side pod internal ducting, and cooling packaging around that Ferrari engine? Toyota Gazoo Racing Engineers. Japanese aerodynamicists and structural design specialists in Cologne and Banbury are legally handling the exact digital blueprints and packaging tolerances of Ferrari's proprietary power unit. They aren't stealing data, they are receiving it legitimately as Haas's designated manufacturing partner. Toyota is getting a front-row seat to study how the most successful engine manufacturer in motorsport history packages a modern hybrid system. They see how Ferrari manages thermal dissipation, how they minimize cooling drag, and how they run their electrical recovery mapping under braking. That technical visibility is worth hundreds of millions of dollars in independent research and development. Ferrari's legal team immediately began combing through the supply contract to see if they could block Toyota personnel from accessing sensitive engine telemetry. But their hands are tied. If Ferrari refuses to provide the required CAD packaging files and thermal parameters to Haas's designated design team, Ferrari breaches their customer supply agreement, exposing Maranello to massive financial lawsuits and breach of contract penalties. Think about how dangerous that is for Maranello. But the trap gets worse. While Maranello scrambled to contain the data flow, Toyota launched Phase 2 of their stealth takeover, cutting Haas's operational dependence on Italy entirely. For years, one of Haas's biggest competitive weaknesses was the lack of an on-site driver-in-the-loop simulator. While top teams like Red Bull, McLaren, and Mercedes ran 24-hour simulation shifts at their UK headquarters during race weekends to test setup changes between Friday practice and Saturday qualifying, Haas had nothing in Banbury. Haas engineers had to rely on renting Ferrari's simulator in Maranello. That setup was an operational nightmare. Sending drivers and race engineers across the English Channel to Italy meant wasted travel time, scheduling bottlenecks behind Ferrari's own factory drivers, and zero real-time simulator support during European race weekends. Toyota solved that problem overnight by writing a single massive check. Toyota Gazoo Racing funded and installed a state-of-the-art simulator facility directly inside Haas's Banbury headquarters. The hardware, motion platforms, and computational software are being developed and supplied directly by Toyota's technical center. The strategic implications of this simulator are massive. Once that Banbury rig came online, Haas drivers no longer set foot in Maranello to run setup simulations. The digital telemetry streams, vehicle dynamic models, and tire degradation algorithms run exclusively on Toyota-managed servers in the UK and Germany. Ferrari lost complete visibility over Haas's weekend setup developments, while Toyota gained real-time data on how a modern F1 chassis interacts with Pirelli tire compounds and aerodynamic ride height changes. And if you thought this was just a software battle, look at what Toyota just did on the actual racetrack. Under Formula One's strict testing restrictions, current cars are heavily limited on how many kilometers they can run outside of official Grand Prix weekends. But the FIA allows teams to run older machinery under the testing of previous cars, TPC, regulations. These private tests allow teams to run 2-year-old cars with zero mileage caps. Historically, Haas barely ran any TPC programs because Gene Haas refused to fund the massive logistical costs of shipping spare parts, renting racetracks, and paying trackside mechanics for non-championship running. Toyota changed that dynamic instantly. TGR stepped in to fully finance and manage Haas's expanded TPC testing operations. They deployed factory-trained Japanese mechanics, software engineers, and telemetry analysts to run Haas's testing sessions at circuits like Silverstone, Paul Ricard, and Fuji. While the cars running on track are older Ferrari-powered Haas chassis, the crew turning the wrenches, operating the diagnostic software, and analyzing the brake-by-wire telemetry wear Toyota Gazoo racing team uniforms. Toyota is systematically training an entire generation of factory personnel in the high-pressure operational environment of Formula One. Their mechanics are mastering 50-second front-wing changes and sub-2-second tire changes. Their trackside engineers are learning how to manage live telemetry dropouts, run plan adjustments, and FIA scrutineering procedures. Ferrari is forced to sit back and watch as their customer engine deal is used to turn Toyota's trackside crew into a world-class, race-ready Formula One operational unit. Here comes the biggest political plot twist: the Driver Academy War. For years, Ferrari used their Haas supply deal to secure a mandatory race seat for their Ferrari Driver Academy prospects. That arrangement put Charles Leclerc in a Sauber and later placed Oliver Behrman directly into the Haas race seat for his full-time debut. Ferrari treated Haas as the finishing school for their future factory stars. Toyota's arrival completely shattered that pipeline. As part of their commercial and technical integration, Toyota Gazoo Racing established a direct path for Toyota Junior Academy drivers to take over Haas Reserve, Simulator, and Free Practice 1 testing slots. Japanese racing drivers from Super Formula and Super GT are being integrated straight into Haas's operational rotation. If a Ferrari-backed driver experiences a slump in form or fails to meet strict performance metrics, Toyota has contractual leverage and financial power to demand their own talent gets seat time. Ferrari suddenly finds itself fighting for political influence inside the very garage they used to dictate terms to. Now, ask yourself the most important question. Why would Gene Haas ever agree to this? Because the financial mathematics make Gene Haas look like a genius. Gene Haas built Haas Automation into a multi-billion-dollar machine tool titan by never spending money when someone else could foot the bill. For 10 years, Haas ran his F1 team on a shoestring budget, relying on Ferrari parts and Dallara manufacturing to avoid building costly UK factory infrastructure. When rival teams were sold for hundreds of millions of dollars, Gene Haas refused every private equity buyout offer, holding out for a way to make his team competitive without diluting his primary equity ownership. Toyota gave him the ultimate gift. Toyota Gazoo Racing is injecting tens of millions of dollars worth of manufacturing capacity, engineering personnel, simulator infrastructure, and commercial sponsorship into the team. Haas gets the operational firepower of a multi-billion-dollar global automotive manufacturer, while Gene Haas retains his team ownership and avoids spending a single dollar of his personal fortune. Toyota, on the other hand, gets a turnkey Formula One operation. They bypass the FIA's strict entry requirements, avoid building an F1 factory from the ground up, and gain immediate access to contemporary chassis data, tire models, and paddock political networks. It is the exact same tactical blueprint that Red Bull executed 2 decades ago. When Red Bull first entered the sport, they bought an uncompetitive Jaguar team, purchased customer Ferrari and Renault engines, and slowly built out their world-class factory in Milton Keynes. Once their chassis design group and aerodynamic department were operating at a championship level, they severed their customer engine ties, partnered with Honda, and eventually built Red Bull powertrains to become an unstoppable factory powerhouse. Toyota is executing that exact blueprint in reverse. They are using Haas's entry and Ferrari's engine to build their chassis manufacturing, simulation tools, and trackside operations from 2026 through 2028. They are letting Ferrari bear the massive financial and technical risk of developing the new hybrid regulations. By the time the Ferrari engine supply contract expires at the end of the 2028 season, Toyota will have a fully operational, battle-tested F1 engineering infrastructure running in Banbury and Cologne. When 2029 arrives, Haas won't need to renew their contract with Maranello. Toyota can simply pull the trigger, supply their own proprietary factory power unit, and complete the transition into a full-scale Toyota Works Formula One team. Fred Vasseur knows the clock is ticking. Ferrari is legally locked into building and delivering world-class power units to a team that is actively preparing for their ultimate divorce. Every race lap Haas completes, every cooling upgrade Toyota designs, And every simulation run executed in Banbury brings Ferrari's biggest corporate nightmare one step closer to reality. Toyota didn't return to Formula One to be a customer, and they certainly didn't come to sit in Ferrari's shadow. They came to conquer the grid, and they turned Ferrari's own contract against them to make it happen. The corporate battle lines in Maranello and Banbury are officially drawn. While the public paddock narrative focuses on weekend points and tire strategies, the real war is happening in boardroom contracts and server rooms across 3 countries. Ferrari walked into this regulatory cycle assuming they held all the cards, securing a multi-year customer engine deal through 2028, and keeping an American customer dependent on Italian engineering. But they fundamentally underestimated Ayao Komatsu's contractual foresight and the sheer industrial might of Toyota Gazoo Racing. By leveraging the non-listed manufacturing loophole, Akio Toyota built an entire Formula One operational pipeline right under Maranello's nose. They funded the Banbury simulator, took over carbon composite development, trained their own factory mechanics through the TPC driver program, and secured real-world access to hybrid integration data without paying a single dollar in entry fees. Fred Vasseur and Ferrari are locked into a trap of their own making. They cannot shut off Haas's CAD models without facing massive legal penalties, but every technical blueprint they deliver helps train their ultimate corporate rival for a factory takeover. When the 2028 checkered flag falls, Gene Haas won't just have a mid-pack customer team. He will have a battle-tested, factory-grade infrastructure, ready to cut the cord with Italy forever. Toyota didn't enter Formula One to play the role of a quiet sponsor. They entered to conquer the grid, and by the time Ferrari figures out how to stop them, it will already be too late. Did Ferrari just make the biggest contractual blunder in modern F1 history? Or can Fred Vasseur find a way to lock Toyota out of Maranello's engine secrets before 2028? Drop your thoughts in the comments down below, and let's get into it.